Exactly. Yeah.
So I mean, yeah, they just see, they like, oh, honey, it looks like they found aliens on Mars. They don't really read the article.
Right. Exactly.
But yeah, the whole thing with the UFOs, I did a number of shows on that. I mean, yeah, that theory seems to be making more sense. The Raelians, or Raelism, however you say it, that UFO religion believes that the story in the Bible is just actually a story describing the Elohim, where aliens. It's just describing genetic engineering, and when they say God, they're really referring to aliens. That's what they say.
Yeah, they're taking. I mean, they've got a not even really that modified version of Zachariah Sitchin. It's so disprovable, but so few people check it out. Sitchiniswrong.com is a great website, but Dr. Michael Heiser. It's the kind of deception that there's only one option. Zachariah Sitchin knew that he was deceiving people. If you study that website, there's not another conclusion to it. There's only one conclusion. Zachariah Sitchin knew he was deceiving people. And the reason no other Sumerian scholar comes up with the exact same conclusion, because surely they would. I mean, why wouldn't somebody else come up? I mean, surely there's people that can interpret those writings better than Zachariah Sitchin that don't have paradigms at risk or anything like that. The reason nobody else comes up with them is because you have to lie in order to come up with them. And I think Sitchin is wrong demonstrates that perfectly.
Stitching is wrong. Yeah, I've heard of people the whole. To be honest, I never really even got into Stitching that much, but no, I mean, if he's one of those guys that says we were seeded by aliens, I mean, yeah, I've heard
Yeah,
that.
he is the guy, and in fact, it was his book in the 70s that started everything, the 12th planet, and that whole Elohim thing and all that stuff is it's a joke. Elohim, most people still uses today. It just drives me nuts. Like they'll say, Elohim is plural, and that means that it's gods and everything. But Elohim is plural and it's also singular. It totally depends on the context. A good example is like the word sheep. If I said it could mean one sheep or two sheep, depending on the context. If I said the sheep are in the pen, the word are shows you that the word sheep is plural. But if I said the sheep is in the pen, you would know that the sheep that I was talking about is singular. And so it's just like a really simple grammatical thing that it's like George Maxwell does ancient history. Well, he does that too, but it's really it's a simple thing. It's a little more complicated than that. I don't want to make it seem like it's that simple, but sitchiniswrong.com really goes into that in great detail.
And one point you made, I posted a video when I announced I was going to be interviewing you as this video. I believe it's called just My Rant to the Truth Movement. You talk about how people, this is kind of a creepy point, but I mean, I think it has a lot of validity to it. It's how people that are now in the, quote, truth movement, um, could, potentially, when the time comes, if there's this huge cataclysm, could find themselves embracing the actual solution, the New World Order, when they claim to be against this from the start. I mean, the deception just runs so deep. And when you made that point, it's just like, wow, I could totally, totally see that. Do you still think that's the case?
Oh yeah, I mean that's the reason we're being indoctrinated into it is to have less resistance when the New World Order comes. The New World Order should be better defined as the New World Order, like that quote that I read earlier when she says, or Dejwa Cool says that the New World Order must meet the immediate need. Let's see, where is it? The New World Order must be appropriate to a world which has passed through a destructive crisis and to a humanity which is badly shattered by the experience. The New World Order must lay the foundation for a future world order, which will be possible only after a time of recovery, of reconstruction and rebuilding. So, what I'm saying here is that when we are offered this utopia, it will be after a terrible time of war. I think war planned and easily planned. I think it will contain a lot of this stuff that the New World Order has the power to do. Things like economic crisis, famine, war, a lot of terrible things that they have the power to do. Pestilence. We're going to be in a big problem that they're creating. But the reason they need that chaos and a perfect chaos is so that when the solution comes, they're everything that we've been taught by the conspiracy world is going to seem like it's been destroyed. They're going to sacrifice what we think is the new world order, and what takes over after that will look absolutely different from the New World Order. In fact, it's going to look a whole lot like it's at the end of every David Icke book. It's going to present itself like a totally different utopia. Listen to Alice Bailey describe the utopia. Listen to Icke describe this utopia. But notice also every single time they describe this utopia that comes after this thing, it's conditional. I mean, everything that Ike says is an if-then statement. Tessarian, I've got this great quote in the Michael Tessarian is wrong video at the end of that. His if-then statements are about this when this coming thing happens, this new utopia that we're going to have. It's possible there's not going to be any wars and everything if there's going to be certain people that are not going to be ready for it. And why? Because they're hanging on to the old age. They still believe, even though everybody just got proven wrong, or that God doesn't exist, because hey, the aliens showed up and everything, stopped this war or whatever. So hey, they've been proven wrong, but yet they can't handle it because their paradigms aren't, they whatever. But in reality, the Christians don't buy it because the Christians were totally warned against this in the Bible. They said, hey, there's going to be somebody coming that's going to look like this Savior, and he's going to promise a whole bunch of peace. But whatever you do, don't believe him. So the Christians aren't believing him because they were warned prior to this. But everybody else is just going to think because that's what we've been told. The whole thing about all the Christians, the age of Pisces thing. Jesus was just, he was symbolizing the age of Pisces. The reason that keeps getting drilled into our head is because they're going to say this new system is like a different thing. And we're still like part of the old age. That's what you're going to hear David Icke say. They're not going to say it quite that much. They'll say this. They're still hanging on to the old age, and they're going to prevent this new thing. And here's the thing that's going to really make it believe us. And this is why, of course, the anti-Christianity stuff is so important to them. Because they keep telling us every day. If it's not every day, it's more than every day. It's the Christians and the Jews and the Muslims are like the Judeo-Christian religions are the reason for the wars. The Jews are constantly fighting the Muslims, and the Christians are have to defend the Jews, and they say that this is the whole problem. And so the problem is that now they have the ability, because obviously they control America, they control the Islamic nations, they control Israel. So all they have to do is create a war. It's the easiest thing in the world. They're really good at it. They've been doing it for a long time. And so that's no problem. But what they can do with the media is tell everybody, especially if here's the deal. We have to think out of the box. We have to think a little bit more futuristic. If indeed this war gets stopped, which is order out of chaos, look at that symbol. That's what they want to do. They need the chaos to be absolutely horrible. So, but if they can do that, if they can stop it, they can say, look, here's your proof that the wars were all caused by this Judeo-Christian religion. We just got out of this terrible time of war, and it was all because of them. And now we're here. We've shown that what they believe, this whole Judeo-Christian thing, it's not even true. These people are causing all your problems, and what they're believing isn't even true. And the thing about that is that the Muslims are going to be cool with that. And the reason is because 600 years after the Bible, the Quran and the Hadiths and all these things paint the Imam Mahdi and the return of Isa. They believe that two people are coming, the Imam Mahdi and the return of Isa. 600 years after the Bible, this prophecy is made of these two people that they're waiting for. They believe the Imam Mahdi is going to reteach them a new Islam, a totally different version. And Jesus, their version of Jesus, Isa, is coming back. So the Bible, of course, predicts the Antichrist and the false prophet. A lot of people forget him. Basically, what I'm saying is that the Muslim world is going to embrace this new system and change their views because that's what they've been prepared for. So the only people really that are going to be left that are part of this thing, that the wars that were caused humanity, and we're already, there's a possibility of evolution. Hey, just look at my alienness. You can be like me someday, but there's still that people that are hanging on to the old age. And it's just going to be Christians standing there holding their Bible saying, guys, we were warned about this. And so the New World Order, this utopia, zeitgeist addendum, this whole thing is something that it's not going to happen like zeitgeist addendum, because zeitgeist addendum is just getting the idea in people's minds, that this is the ultimate goal of utopia. The ultimate goal of utopia absolutely has to be something that is continually dangled in front of our face, whatever version it takes, whether it's Ike's, Tsarian's, or zeitgeist addendums. We all have to believe that someday a utopia is possible. When it comes to the real world, they're going to have a very solid introduction to this whole New Age thing. It's going to happen over a very fast period.
Yeah, and actually, I'm glad you mentioned Zeitgeist because I need to make sure in this interview we mentioned in the email I sent you, I talked about the new preview for the new Zeitgeist, and it blew my mind because I mean, knowing what I knew about talking about the Age of Aquarius and the New Age and just the title of it. Listen to the title of it. It's moving forward. I know you know that, but and then at the very end of the trailer it says the transition begins. So what is this starting to sound like? This just totally reaffirms the teachings in theosophy and all of this stuff. That ultimately is what they're pushing. But what I don't understand with the whole zeitgeist thing though is why do they try to act like these atheists, but then when you look at their bibliography, they're quoting, a lot of theosophists and New Agers and Freemasons and stuff. So do you think they really are atheists, or what? I mean, what do you think? What's the deal with that?
Well, I mean, everybody sort of has a difference of opinion about it. I mean, when you're the thing about the New Age stuff is that it's kind of loosely based. The only thing that you can't do in the New Age is be a Christian, a Bible believing Christian. You can pretty much be anything else, and you can believe whatever you want to believe, and a lot of them believe a lot of different things, but they certainly believe in the supernatural. The question then becomes the source of the supernatural, and really in my experience, and I know in the experience of a lot of other people, it's not really that well thought out. They might have sort of, half-baked ideas about, well, I kind of think it's, we're all sort of here and then, we die and something happens and I think they're still here and, ghosts I'm not sure of. And, they haven't really thought it out. If they're into some sort of particular thing or like theosophy or something like that, it's solid doctrine. They have to believe the ascended masters are there and that's, and all that stuff. But for the most part, most of us, that, we're former truth, former, people out there believing the new age and stuff like that, didn't really think it out that well. But yeah, you're right. You're absolutely right. Their whole bag is clearly at the undertones of it is very theistic in certain ways. If there are theosophists of a bent, that theism is basically reverse theism, and that they're very Luciferian in their belief system. Like I just mentioned, David Icke, who keeps telling us that the sun, well, he doesn't mention it anymore, but he's certainly very adamant in his old books, that the sun is an entity and that it's the one that's going to do the changing. If you decode that and you understand what he's talking about, in his older books, he's talking about Lucifer's going to be the one to literally enlighten us in this new and the new thing. But, but of course, Icke would be the first person to say that a version of atheism, it's sort of like we're all sort of God, so there is no God kind of situation.
Okay, and one criticism I want to bring up when I talk about a lot of this stuff is, what do you think? I mean, do you think in order to be well, okay, actually, this is just an issue I've had for a long time. So, do you think, as far as this is kind of going back to Christianity and the New World in the anti-New World Order movement and stuff, do you think you have to be? I mean, do you think you really have to be Christian to be against the Illuminati? I mean, do you think you could be another religion and still be against all this? Or?
Sure, I mean, these people are, killing, raping, pillaging, destroying. I mean, who wouldn't be against that? Um, I, to be against it is not hard, and I think that that's not the hard part. The hard part I think comes when they're not going to have this gray area be around for very much longer. The stuff that they're working on is to make sure there's only black and there's only white. There's ultimatums coming. There's going to be you're either with us or you're choosing sides,
Yeah.
uh, and they're going to make it hard to hide. So the question really isn't if you're going to be against them. The question really is, are you going to join them? And as it currently stands, a lot of us will join them because we won't recognize that it is them.
Yeah, wow, yeah, you put it really well just there. And the reason I ask that is because a lot of times when I start advocating this and saying the teachings of Jesus are basically the antithesis to the Illuminati, I mean, which is what I've been saying more and more, I get a lot of criticism, and for the most part, it's all been pretty polite debate. I haven't been, I mean, I've had a few attacks, but it's just when I say that they think like I'm saying, oh, if you're not a just this someone who follows the Bible word by word Christian, then you're evil. And that's not what I'm saying. All I'm saying is when you look at the doctrine of the Theosophical Society and things like that, it really does appear. And this is what I didn't come to this research from a Christian perspective. I've been
Exactly. Yeah.
so I mean, yeah, they just see, oh, they like, oh, honey, it looks like they found aliens on Mars. They don't really read the article.
Right. Exactly.
But yeah, the whole thing with the UFOs, I did a number of shows on that. I mean, yeah, that theory seems to be making more sense. The Raelians, or Raelism, however you say it, that UFO religion believes that the story in the Bible is just actually a story describing the Elohim, where aliens. It's just describing genetic engineering, and when they say God, they're really. It's one of those guys that says we were seeded by aliens. I mean, yeah, I've heard
Yeah,
that.
he is the guy, and in fact, it was his book in the 70s that started everything, the 12th planet, and that whole Elohim thing and all that stuff is it's a joke. Elohim, most people still use this today. It just drives me nuts. Like they'll say, Elohim is plural, and that means that it's gods and everything. But Elohim is plural and it's also singular. It totally depends on the context. A good example is like the word Sitchin knew he was deceiving people. And the reason no other Sumerian scholar comes up with the exact same conclusion, because surely they would. I mean, why wouldn't somebody else come up? I mean, surely there's people that can interpret those writings better than Zachariah Sitchin that don't have paradigms at risk or anything like that. The reason nobody else comes up with them is because you have to lie in order to come up with them. And I think Sitchin is wrong demonstrates that perfectly.
Stitching is wrong. Yeah, I've heard of people the whole. To be honest, I never really even got into stitching that much. But no, I mean, if he's
Word sheep. If I said it could mean one sheep or two sheep, depending on the context. If I said the sheep are in the pen, the word are shows you that that word sheep is plural. But if I said the sheep is in the pen, you would know that the sheep that I was talking about is singular. And so it's just like a really simple grammatical thing that it's like George Maxwell does ancient history. Well, he does that too, but it's really it's a simple thing. It's a little more complicated than that. I don't want to make it seem like it's that simple, but Sitchin is wrong, Duck.
referring to aliens, that's what they say.
Yeah, they're taking. I mean, they've got a not even really that modified version of Zachariah Sitchin. It's so disprovable, but so few people check it out. Sitchiniswrong.com is a great website by Dr. Michael Heiser. It's the kind of deception that there's only one option. Zachariah Sitchin knew that he was deceiving people. If you study that website, there's not another conclusion to it. There's only one conclusion. Zachariah